This is Heart-repreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart. With your host, Terri Levine. Listen every week as Terri tackles the topics that will help you become a successful heart-centered entrepreneur. Be sure to read the blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog. Come back often and add this show to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heart-repreneur Terri Levine. And now here's Terri.
Hello and welcome to Heart-repreneur Radio and TV show with Terri Levine. I'm your co-host, Velma Gallant, and I'm excited to be here today. You can connect with Terri, me, and other like-minded, heart-based business owners in the Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine Facebook group, so go check it out. And we always love to hear the value you're getting from our shows, so we'd appreciate those comments, the likes, and the 5-star reviews, and make sure that you subscribe. Today's quote, believe in yourself, have faith in your abilities. Without a humble but reasonable confidence in your own powers, you cannot be successful or happy. Norman Vincent Peale. Today's show topic, from limit to limitless, overcoming your imposter syndrome. Our special guest this week is Adri Kyser. And Adri is an international wellness expert, energy alchemist, and speaker who has spent the past 16 years helping highly driven women stop feeling stressed and overwhelmed and start living a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. Welcome to the show, Adri.
Thank you so much for having me, Velma. I'm so excited to be here with all of you.
This is going to be fantastic. Okay, so I am really curious as to why you've chosen the title or the title of Energy Alchemist. What does that mean?
I love that question. So it means a person that's able to combine different tools, AKA myself. I'm more than a speaker, I'm more than a yoga teacher, I'm more than a coach. And it's based on my personal experience of working to heal myself naturally from chronic back pain for over a decade. Throughout that process, throughout those years, I acquired many techniques, holistic modalities that I now combine to create changes, positive changes in my clients, in my family, my friends. So it's not only working at the physical level or mental level, it's working mind, body, spirit, and energy. So I do a lot of energy work as well. I work with crystals, essential oils. I'm a Reiki master, in addition to NLP coach. So I have all these different modalities that I bring together to really create a long-lasting impact.
Awesome. I love the things that you're bringing together. I have touched every one of them except for the NLP coaching. I have touched the crystals, I've touched on the Reiki, all of that. So I totally connect and understand a lot of what you're sharing there. So we're talking today about limit to limitless, overcoming imposter syndrome. And I think each and every one of us has experienced that at least once in our life and probably ongoing. How do you recommend somebody transform the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have been exposed or felt that way, right? Especially because we are bombarded through social media or the news or commercials that we should look a certain way or that we should be achieving X, Y, and Z, right? Living with the expectations of others. And so when we don't match that ideal, then we start to feel we're not good enough, right? We're not good as so-and-so. We're not succeeding as fast as whatever, especially when we hear in business. When it comes to business, people's like, oh, I started my business last week and today I made $1 million. Well, so a lot of those things come up often, right? And the truth is that every single success out there has been years in the making. It has been nights without sleeping, tons of failures, or what I like to call try again moments, right? So these moments of how to overcome imposter syndrome is recognizing and realizing that every single one of us today, listening at this moment, have a special gift, talent, have unique experiences that only you can offer. There are a million doctors out there. There are a million coaches out there. There are a million podcasts out there. There are a million yoga teachers. There are a million of everything. But what makes it different is you, is what you bring to the table, is your experience, is how you communicate it, is your energy, is your outlook, your mindset. And once you recognize how powerful, brilliant, beautiful, strong, and how much you can bring to the table, then you begin to attract the people that match the vibration. There are no drops of water that are the same. There's no snowflakes that are the same. They're unique as our fingerprints. So there cannot be imposter syndrome once we recognize that we are as unique as our fingerprints. So when we stop comparing ourselves to others, that's when we truly start to feel more confident. I always say that comparison is a thief of joy. Mm-hmm. When we compare ourselves, we give our power away. If you want to feel bad about yourself, start looking through social media, the news, and all the stuff, and start comparing. So one of the things I tell people right away is take your power back by noticing the thoughts that you're having, noticing what you're doing that creates a pattern that leads to not feeling good enough. And sometimes people don't even realize they don't feel they're not good enough until an amazing opportunity happens, or until they have to step out of their comfort zone, or when they start paying attention, wow, do I compare myself? Or how easily do I receive compliments? As simple as that, as somebody saying, hey, you look beautiful today, or that shirt is nice. And we deflect by saying whatever it is that we say. And so one of the things I always notice with my clients, most of my clients, is when I pay a compliment, how they react. And then my comment to them back is like, simply say, thank you. You don't have to explain. You don't have to give me a story or a background. Just say, thank you, because you are worthy of receiving a compliment. You're worthy of receiving love. You're worthy of receiving whatever your heart desires. You just have to believe it. And that's when the transformation happens, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually speaking.
There's so much in there that I connect with. I mean, the expectations of others, the comparing to others. I love that you referred to it as try again moments rather than failures. Sometimes even just transforming the words that we use to explain things can make a huge difference in our own energy. And then taking back our power by noticing our patterns. I also love what you said about the compliments, because that was one of the observations I had made about myself. It'd be, oh, your blouse is beautiful. Oh, this old thing, and I know I'm not the only one that has done that. And it has been a consistent practice of saying thank you. And I will still from time to time say where I bought it or something like that. At least I've kind of transformed it from this old thing to where I bought it. And then I have to remind myself to say thank you, because it's also being gracious to the giver as well, right? So it ends up being that in and out breath of giving and receiving, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And what's important is, I talk about this quite often, is that as human beings, we have on average, about 70,000 thoughts per day. Yet only 10% of those are original thoughts, meaning 90% are repetitions of the thoughts we had the day before, the month before, the year before. So what we think, we become, right? What we think becomes our belief, and our belief has the power to change our biology. So now it's very crucial to understand how the way you think will affect the way you feel, and how you feel will affect the way you behave or receive or interact with the external world. Because everything that happens on the inside is reflected back to what's happening on the outside. So we cannot be, let me repeat that again. We cannot be feeling like I'm so great, I'm so happy and so powerful and confident and strong. And all the things that are happening around me counteracts that, meaning if I don't have a good paying job, if I'm afraid of asking for a raise, if my relationships are falling apart, that's reflecting the internal dialogue, not the conscious mind, but the subconscious dialogue, the patterns we repeat over and over. So these are like limiting beliefs. That's exactly how we overcome the imposter syndrome, is by becoming aware of the limiting beliefs. And as I mentioned, we have so many thoughts per day. We're not aware of these thoughts that we're having. They're just happening autopilot. So let's come back to the compliment example. If we're constantly saying, oh, this old thing, oh, really? I thought I didn't do good, or whatever excuse we give, that we begins to create a pattern. That pattern begins to become a belief. The belief begins to affect the way we feel. This affects the way of how we respond to a compliment, etc. So once you start working on your limiting beliefs, and how do we do that? Simply by paying attention, becoming aware. You cannot change something that you don't know needs changing. So by paying attention to like, oh, okay, I'm noticing this happens once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Something has to change. This is a pattern I'm attracting. This is some type of thought, some type of energy I'm working with that I need to transform, transmute, change. Right? And the changes have to happen from within. You cannot change something on the outside if you don't change something on the inside first. You cannot say, I am confident, I'm worthy of love, if you still feel unlovable, if you still feel unworthy. So when it comes to moments of what are some of the limiting beliefs I'm carrying or having, is ask yourself questions and be honest. Call yourself out, because we tell our stories. And this is the thing. Many people want to change. Many people want the soulmate. They want a better business or more money or different career, whatever it is that they want. But they are so married to their story, to this happens to me, therefore I cannot have that. Or because that person did that, I'm here. Once we own our story and be like, you know what? I need to change this. This is no longer working for me. That's when you begin to recognize the importance of the power of choice. And then taking inspired action is next. Again, nothing can change until you choose or decide, and then you take actions. Many people are like, oh, I want to lose weight, or I want to get stronger, I want to exercise, but I don't have time of the day. That's simply saying, or I'm too busy. That's simply saying that particular thing that you want is not priority yet. Yeah, I see it all the time. So how do we change that? It's like, okay, how important is this in my life? And what do I need to do to change it? That's how it begins to happen. You choosing, no matter what, that you're going to achieve the result that you want by changing the narrative of the story and by holding yourself accountable and committing to the success that you say you so deeply want.
There's so much juicy stuff in there. I like that you said, call yourself out on your stories, and that people are married to their stories. I mean, I know there have been plenty of times where I will begin to make a change and I will get excited about it. And for a period of time, my narrative is different. But then I can see some of those old beliefs leaking in until they're in there again. And so it really is about changing our stories. And, it was kind of funny while you were talking there, what kind of came in for me, that for a visual for some people might make sense, is we really want to be able to reprogram our Google Maps.
Yes, and you can, if you choose to, and if you choose so, and then commit to it. You definitely can. The thing is, the biggest obstacle that we face is ourselves,
Mhm.
but also we're their biggest ally. So we have to choose what hat or what shoes you're going to step on today. Because, when that's part of the thing. I have done this for so many years, and I have worked on myself. Something I mentioned briefly before was I used to suffer from chronic back pain for over a decade. And despite all the conventional treatments, I only would get temporary results. One day, my healing journey started when I started taking yoga classes, and I became a yoga teacher. And from that, other holistic modalities came into my life. But it wasn't until I remember, because I forgot, this is the thing, the subconscious mind or the mind is always looking to protect you and prove you right. So what I didn't know at the time was that I lived with this I'm not good enough. That was a background story. I cannot trust women. I'm not good enough. And was reinforced by or started by being abused as a child by my aunt beating me up, calling me names and all the stuff. But then when I moved to the US, I'm from Venezuela, so this is my Latina accent. When I moved to the US, I encountered racist remarks about being an immigrant with an accent. So what happened? I became voiceless. I literally didn't speak for 3 months to anybody outside my family. I became insecure, and this I'm not good enough became even bigger and louder because I had experiences in my life that confirm or prove my mindset right. Yes, you're not good enough. Therefore, let me bring the situations or focus on the situations and make you feel less than. And it wasn't until something triggered that I remember, first of all, the abuse, because I completely forgot. In that moment, I realized I was playing with my son, and my son was about the same age where this happened. And as I playing with my son, something got triggered. I remember the memories, and my entire back locked up. So I had to do a lot of work on myself, work on forgiveness, work on all these different things. And then I also realized that I have gone to law school in Venezuela for a few years, that I speak multiple languages, or well, now 2, before I used to speak 3. And in those moments, I started to prove my theory that I'm not good enough wrong. I started to focus, instead of what I didn't have or what I lacked or who I wasn't, into who I was. I recognized that the pain of me playing it safe, hiding, playing small, letting other people's expectations be the guidance of my life, that pain was small in comparison to the pain of me not becoming the person who I was meant to be, of me not showing up fully and freely from the fear of being judged. So when that happened, it wasn't overnight. And there were moments, like you said, where all belief patterns started to seep in. And still until today, there are moments when we have to realize, oh my gosh, I worked on this. I thought it was done. I changed the chapter or turned the page, and all of a sudden it's back. But it's just simply as a reminder that just a little bit more that needs to be healed. There's a little bit more of work that needs to be done. So when that happens, when we fall back to old patterns, instead of judging ourselves or like throwing the towel and be like, I done this and look, now all the work for nothing. Every minute you spend on yourself, on working yourself, on improving yourself, is never wasted. So it may seem that you took 10 steps forward and now you're back to step 5. But remember that step 5 now is rooted and firmly supporting you. So now when you start moving forward again, it's more solid, it's more concrete. And it's seen as an opportunity. It's like, okay, this tells me I need more healing. This tells me I need more work. And when I talk about healing, I'm talking in all aspects, because people will concentrate only, well, let me say this, unfortunately, the way a lot of our society has been brought up is that we only go to the doctor when something feels off, when something is broken, when something, and then the medical, which again, I'm not saying I'm not anti-medicine. I love both Western and Eastern medicine. I'm just saying is, why don't we work on preventing rather than fixing and taking
Right.
control back of our health. So taking time for us to exercise, taking time for us to eat better, taking time for us to sleep, taking time for
Right.
us to rest is just as important as doing our mental work and as checking in with our emotions and doing our spiritual work. I'm not talking about specific religion, I'm talking about connecting with whatever makes you feel more whole and connected with everything around you, right?
Right. Right. Okay. So this is a perfect place for us for pause. We're going to pause for a commercial break. And then when we come back, I would love it if you would share the best way for our listeners to be able to connect with you.
Hey there, it's Terri Levine. I just wanted to pop in for just a moment as you're listening here to Heart-repreneur Radio and watching Heart-repreneur TV. We have so many new and exciting things going on. So you can watch a free masterclass. Highly recommend to get a conveyor belt of qualified prospects. That's at TL, like Terri Levine, tlwebinar.com. Head over there, enjoy it, keep listening and sharing the show.
Welcome back to Heart-repreneur Radio and TV show. I'm your co-host, Velma Gallant, and we are here today with Adri Kyser. And we've been talking about overcoming imposter syndrome, moving from limited to limitless. And we've been talking about a lot of really excellent things. The last thing that we left off on, you were talking about how we tend to wait until there's something really wrong and then go to a doctor about that rather than coming from a perspective of preventative and maintenance. One of the other things you talked about was also how our minds are created not only to protect ourselves, but also to prove ourselves right. So, you know, we talked earlier about the power of choice. So really, is it, do we choose, what do we choose to going on our fact-finding missions for, right? Are we going to choose to go for those things that validate our worthiness, or are we going to choose to go for those things that validate our unworthiness? How do you support people with transforming those beliefs and support them with, changing where they're looking?
Yeah, so I work in a holistic way. Well, certain people concentrate only on, let me give you an example, losing weight or therapy, talk therapy, or whatever it is. I work with mind, body, and spirit, because something that people don't realize is that the mind, body, and soul are connected, and what affects one will affect the other too. And your body remembers everything you have ever experienced, and everything that you have ever felt and thought. So when your body keeps track of everything you've done, from how you eat to how much you sleep to what you're thinking to how you manage stress, we have to start working with something that's more tangible. Meaning, we need to start with our physical body. We need to start with, okay, if I'm eating junk food, if I'm watching trash TV, if I'm always gossiping or focusing on the negative, how am I going to feel better? But if I say, okay, in order for me to start changing my mindset, in order for me to become the best version I can be, in order for me to go from limited to limitless, to become the person I am meant to be, start with self-care. Self-care is no selfish, it is necessary. And when I talk about self-care, it's not just about going to the spa and getting massages or getting your hair done or resting. Self-care is also saying no. Self-care is also paying attention to your finances. Self-care is also setting boundaries. Self-care is also letting go of people, situations, and circumstances no longer serve you. So self-care starts with you saying, I'm going to take better care of myself by eating better, by exercising more, by maybe going to sleep at a certain time every night so I can rest, putting my phone down certain times during or over the weekend or whatever it is, setting boundaries for yourself with work and your time to cultivate better relationship with yourself and others. Now, something that people tell me all the time, I know all these things. I try all this stuff. It doesn't work. I'm too busy. I don't have time to exercise. I'm too busy. I don't have time to eat better. I'm too busy, whatever it is. My question comes back to what I mentioned before. Why wait until something is really wrong or your body breaks down in order for you to pay attention? People say, I don't have money. It's too expensive. Is it more expensive to pay for treatments than preventing care? What is the quality of life that you want to live? Once you start eating better, when you start moving your body, and I call this moving medicine. It doesn't have to be you have to run a marathon. It doesn't have to be that you have to do an hour cardio every day for 7 weeks. Moving medicine is the right type of exercise for you. I'm partial to yoga and Pilates. Why? Because they're mindful practices. They're practices that instead of you going outside, you're going within. You're connecting. It's mind, body, and spirit. So when you start eating better, sleeping better, taking better care of yourself, doing moving meditations or moving medicine, then your mindset begins to also change. In addition to, I have a PDF, it's free, it's called From Limited to Limitless, that it's a simple PDF. I do a mini exercise in there for you to recognize where are some of your limiting beliefs. Because remember, I mentioned you cannot change something you don't know that needs changing. So when you start paying attention, two of the most common limiting beliefs are, I'm not good enough and I don't have enough money. Any money or any money related situations, right? So how can you make more money if when you say, I don't have enough money, and the people, situation, programs, whatever it is, show up in your lab to help you change that money mindset, but it's your same limiting belief that says, oh, but I can afford it. So again, we want change, you get the opportunities, but it's the same limiting beliefs that holds you back. So when that moment comes in and says, oh, okay, I'm seeing this limiting belief come up multiple times in my life. I need to do something. I need to change the narrative of my story and call yourself out and say, okay, is my same excuse that's preventing me from making the change? Or am I really ready now to take the inspired action? How do I know it's inspired action rather than mind telling you what to do or what not to do? Because you feel it in your gut. That moment when you get like, that moment of inspiration, you know, when you're like maybe driving along and you're like, oh, maybe I should call my mom, or maybe I should write this piece down and make a post, or maybe I should, whatever it is, that moment, that's your inspiration talking to you. And when you follow that, I promise you 100% of the time, there's a positive result. It's when we like, oh, I'll do that later. Then the inspiration passes and then your programmings begin to kick in again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it makes me wonder too, because especially when it comes to our relationship with time, how often are we filling our time with the expectations of others versus what would be of most value for us and, say, for example, our purpose or whatever the case might be? Like, are we making those choices from an empowered perspective, or are we defaulting to the expectations of others?
And all habits. You know, let me give you a simple example that people can relate to, or hopefully can relate to. Years ago, when I wanted to start a meditation practice, I was like, oh, I don't want to sit there and do nothing. The phone would ring, the doorbell would ring. I would think of the emails I need to send, all this stuff. The moment I say enough is enough, if I really want the change, if I really want the change I'm asking for, it needs to start with me making a decision. And the moment I decide, you know what, I'm going to get my timer on my phone for 5 minutes. It's all I'm asking, 5 minutes of my own time for myself. When I chose that, the first day the phone rang, the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. The second day, I don't remember now, but let's say the doorbell rang. I didn't answer. The third day, the noises begin to disappear. Why? Because I made the decision. So how I explain this is oftentimes we decide, and before we start, we already self-sabotage ourselves. Or I call it the universe. The universe begins to kind of send those signals to see how committed are we to the change that we're asking for. I was asking, I want to meditate to reduce stress, the mental stress, to begin to change my body, because meditation has been proven to change sense of self, has changed, has seen positive improvements in memory, in stress, reducing stress, right? So the moment I say, okay, I want to meditate, but immediately it was like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do it? I was already I wanted it, but my old patterns were talking me out of it.
Right.
The moment, and then external scenes, interruptions kept coming in, right? The moment I decided, then I got tested. It's like, hey, let me send you this phone call and see if you're going to answer. Let me send these and see what you're going to do. And the moment I said, no matter what, the email will be there the moment I'm done after 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes of 24 hours, 5 minutes. The moment I made that decision, the distractions begin to disappear. Same happens with everybody that wants to start eating better, right? They start with it, they jump in, both feet forward, they're that like, I'm ready. They start doing really well. One day get off track and derails everything. It takes 21 days to create a habit. So if you can commit to something for 21 days, it becomes a habit. And you begin to now, it's not something that you have to do. It becomes part of your routine. So anybody wanting to make a change, start with baby steps. Don't go from like, I'm going to exercise 7 days a week to I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. 3 times a week. Now increase it to 20 minutes. Now maybe add a yoga class or whatever it is. So start with small changes so then you can really see results. Otherwise, we fall back to old patterns. And that's very important. Find an accountability partner, maybe a family member or a friend, maybe a coach, maybe a mentor. Once you become aware of what it is that you want to create, do everything in your power to make it a reality, because it's not somebody else's job. Blaming other people or situations or circumstances is all programming that we need to clear and release. Is recognizing that everything starts and ends with you, with your choice, with your action.
Exactly. And I know I've done those types of things quite often. So not that long ago, I started doing one round of back exercises because I wanted to strengthen my back. And that's all I had to do was just that one back exercise during the week. Oh, I got something in my eye here. During the week. And then the other things that I've done is there's been writing projects that I've worked on. I only have to open the document every day. That's my commitment, is to open the document every day. And some days it was just, I read through what it was that I had done and that was it. And that was okay because I'd followed through on my commitment. But most often, once I got started reviewing what I'd done, it had given me some really good ideas to implement, and I would start working on it and I would get into it. And once I started doing that writing project was complete really quickly, but all it took was my commitment to open the document.
Something small, simple, no expectations. I have to write a paragraph. I have to write a page or a chapter. It was that I'm just going to open the document. And something that, as you were saying this too, it's important to mention that we all have resistance. We encounter resistance, and resistance can show up in many ways, like not wanting to do something, obstacles showing up, etc. And how there are times where I have to ask myself, okay, is this resistance because of my own fear, or is it because I'm afraid of something changing that is meant to be changed? Is it resistance because it's exciting because it's different? Is it resistance? So let me see if I can word in a better way. Sometimes when we're about to experience something magical and great, we're going to encounter resistance. Resistance because the mind wants to keep you safe in the patterns that is known. So what you resist persists. So in addition to this, it's like asking yourself, okay, am I resisting this because it's about to change something major in my life? And when I mean major, it can be a mindset finally being released, right? Or because they're about to make a breakthrough. Or am I resisting this because it's my easy way out, right?
Exactly.
So it's recognizing, it's like, another example that many people can relate to is like exercising. I teach yoga. I've been teaching for 16 years. And there are days where I don't want to step on my mat. I resist practicing yoga. And I have to ask myself, why? Why am I resisting going to class today or this week? Is it because am I too tired and I need to rest? Or is it because I need to face something that I'm avoiding? And oftentimes, when I'm honest with myself, I will find the answer. Am I resisting it because I don't want to see a bigger picture? Am I resisting it because I really need a break? So you have to become so in tune with yourself and get to know yourself so you can really recognize and realize when you're making your own excuses and when you're resisting something, because the more you resist it, the more it persists, right? So if you really want to, for example, the more I resist change, the more things are going to come into my life. So I finally have to change, whether I like it or not. I can choose to change happily and going along, or I can choose to change kicking and screaming.
So really what I heard there is that we actually have the opportunity to use our resistance as a tool and as a guidance indicator. So that was awesome. That was very awesome. Adri, I so much appreciated this time with you. And I want to make sure that our listeners have an opportunity to connect with you. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Yes, my website and all social media channels are the same. It's Adri Kyser. So that's ADRI KYSER, adrikyser.com, Adri Kyser on Instagram, Facebook, all social medias. That's the best way to reach out to me and find me and connect with me.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. There was a lot of amazing information in there. And I think it really does even give our listeners something to start with right now in order to make some of those changes that they want to make and overcome the imposter syndrome, move from limited to limitless. So thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Have a great day, everybody.
And thank you to our listeners for coming and spending your time with us. We'd love to hear the value that you received from our show today. We'd love to see those comments. We appreciate the likes, and we always love those 5-star reviews. And don't forget to head on over to Facebook and connect with Terri, myself, and other like-minded heart-based business owners at the Heart-repreneurs with Terri Levine Facebook group. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week.
You've been listening to Heart-repreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart with your host, Terri Levine. This show is produced every week for your enjoyment and education. To make sure you never miss a single show, add us to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also read Terri's latest blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog or follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heart-repreneur Terri Levine. Your questions and comments are always welcome and appreciated. Send them to Terri on either Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for listening.